人的奥秘和真谛
The Secret and Truth of Predestination to Xiefeng. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The 8 Descriptions of Predestination. A tie will not end until the debt is paid. Once a tie is formed, only its resolution can dismiss it, and with that, it shall end. Love and hate determine the depths of ties. Some ties are very shallow while others are very deep. The depth of a tie is decided by the degree of love and hate associated with it. The stronger the degree of love or hate, the deeper the tie is. The weaker they are, the shallower it is. 3. The short or long of the tie is determined by debts. Ties are essentially debt relationships. Debt relationships are not related to the amount of the debts as much as to the length of time involved. As long as there is owing, the tie is long. Once the debt is settled, the tie will end. 4. Mortals create ties, but Tao ends them. Both good and bad ties are created by mortals. Once a tie is created, it is controlled by the reward and punishment program of Tao and will eventually befall the person who created it. This is the so-called, good will be rewarded with good and evil will be punished with evil. If it is not repaid now, that is because the time has not yet come. Once the time comes, it will surely be repaid. 5. With neither shape nor form, but with shadows and traces. We can neither see nor touch a tie. It is a kind of non-material existence. It is like a time bomb. We do not know when it will explode. Perhaps in a couple of hours, or perhaps not for hundreds or thousands of years. But ties have shadows and traces. If we open Buddha eyes to trace them, we can find their origins. 6. The beginning and ending of a tie is but a thought. Once you get a tie, you will have to dismiss it in order to keep it from falling on you, and if you want to eliminate a part of the tie, you will have to do good, especially a hidden good or formless almsgiving. Do evil not to a single thing and do good to all things. Repentance, praying, giving alms, and selfless dedication are the best ways to eliminate ties. Especially an evil tie on the halfway. 7. Things arrive when ties arrive and things disappear when ties end. All coincidences and emergency events arise due to ties. The tie makes the meeting. When the tie ends, that is, when the equivalent debts are paid, the event will naturally end. When the tie ends, things will part. 8. Beginning or ending a tie depends on perception. Human life is a process of tying and untying. Everything is tied. Ties are the sea and we are the fish swimming in it. Ties are like invisible, densely woven meshes over which people walk. Divine punishments are slow but sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. This divine mesh is the tie controlled by Tao. If people do not perceive this, then they cannot escape the divine mesh, and as a result they will rise and fall in the sea of ties and reincarnate until they do. This is how ties form and how they end. The 8 best ways to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie. 1. Praying and repenting, formless almsgiving. Praying and repenting in accordance with the teachings of Jesus Christ, attaining the great vehicle, and making formless almsgiving according to Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching are the ways to end all the evil ties, repay all the debts since the beginningless time, accumulate treasures in heaven, and go directly to the Elysium world, the kingdom of the greatest creator. 2. Associating with others by following predestined relationships, swallowing humiliation and bearing heavy loads. The ties that we formed since beginningless time will come in succession. To this end, we need to associate with others by following our predestined relationships and resolve them in succession. Whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him also the left one, because it is the result of an ill tie. If you do not allow them to smite you, then the ill tie will not end, but will recur in another form in the future. If others scold you, bully you, insult you, or trample upon you, be they relatives, friends, or strangers, then you must accept it with delight and with neither anger nor resentment. Pray for and bless your enemy. 3. Doing evil not to a single thing, doing good to all things. Regardless of what dilemma or situation you find yourself in, you should have only good thoughts, good words, good expressions, and good deeds. Never evil ones. Just praise all others and speak not one bad word against any others. However you speak, it must be active, positive, and optimistic. Never passive, negative, or pessimistic. Try your best to bring happiness and joy to people rather than distress and sadness. You should not only treat people this way, but all life and all nature. Point 4. Always giving, never taking. The guiding principle of the universe is that the sum of positive and negative energy is always zero. Losses and gains are always equal. What one gains and loses always balance out. If you lose, you will certainly gain. If you gain, you will certainly lose, so never think that someone owes you, but remind yourself what you owe others. If others bully us, it is because we owe them and it is time to pay them back. If others owe us, be it emotional debt or financial debt, do not ask for it because it will be returned in one way or another, perhaps in this life, perhaps in the afterlife, perhaps from the head, perhaps from the toe. All in all, the law of the sum of negative and positive energy always is zero will work. We just give and leave the taking to Tao. Point 5. Being apart from the mortal world and avoiding mundane entanglements. Living in the mortal world is to inevitably contact a variety of mortals and laities, but remember that in no case must you ever take advantage of others, not even those closest to you, your parents, children, husband, or wife. In all the universe, heaven and earth, there are no advantages to be had. Whatever advantages you think you have taken are harmful because you will bear losses to balance them out. Especially when you are dealing with ignorant persons, laities, mortals, sages, let alone the public. If you take gains from beasts and birds, then your nature will be harmed. If you crave gains from people, then you will bear losses from the Tao of heaven. The hard truth is that if you are not corrupt, do not take advantages nor owe debts, then you are staying away from the mortal world and are free from the ties of mundane entanglements. One particularly important thing is that love and sex must always be completely consensual from both sides and totally free from luring or forcing, or such a mundane entanglement will be as difficult to end as cotton or silk. Point 6. Pursuing celestial beings and worshipping Buddha builds good ties. Celestial beings are in the celestial world. Buddha is in the Buddhist world. Both are good places to be. Building relationships with celestial beings and Buddha gives you hope to exit from samsara and go straight to the realm of freedom. The actual manifestation of spiritual wisdom is giving advantages and benefits to all life in the lower level life space and owing them nothing, building relationships with life of the higher level life space, emulating celestial beings, and worshipping Buddha whenever and wherever you see them. It is always best to have celestial being or Buddha owe something to you. Point 7. Forgiving the wrong and severing its attraction. We should forgive all those who have ever harmed our life since the beginningless time and stop asking them to repay us. This is the way to completely sever our ties with them and develop no new ones, which can let the attraction of life in the lower level life space completely disappear from us so that we can ascend to heaven and become an immortal. Point 8. Revering the greatest creator and taking the way of the greatest creator. This is the heart and core to end worldly ties and form a celestial tie, also the top and best way to achieve a state of oneness with man and nature and Tao, as well as to go to the Elysium world. Everything that Life Genuine does is centered on taking the way of the greatest creator. If you want to understand this more deeply, then you will have to read and understand the meanings of Chanyuan Corpus and Siefeng Corpus, enter the new oasis for life, and serve for the Life Genuine era. Conclusion. All forms and things in the universe develop and change as the result of predestination. When predestination exists, then forms, matter, and things exist. When predestination ends, then forms, matter, and things end. Good ties bear good fruit and bad ties bear bad fruit. Mundane entanglements fall into the mortal world, but affinity with Buddha goes to the Elysium world. This truth must be understood. Those who understand the secrets and the truth are celestial beings and Buddha. Those who do not are mortal beings.
现实与虚幻的辩证关系。
The dialectical relationship between reality and illusion. Siefeng. October 5, 2017. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Reality is real in name only. Illusions are illusory in name only. Reality is illusory and material. Illusions are real and non-material. The material world is the presentation of the non-material world. The non-material world is the foundation of the material world. Reality is like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow, as dew and lightning, thus should you meditate upon them. Every illusion is real and true, is where the real spirit and soul dwell, and where the great universe is. Consciousness is illusory, but reality is the reflection and projection of consciousness. The consciousness determines the state of life's existence. Wishes are illusory, yet they lead to reality. Ideals are illusory, yet they accomplish life's reality. Visualized prospects are illusory, but according to the principle of visualized thinking, it is they that determine the future. Love is illusory, but it can inject huge spirit and soul energy into people. Heaven is illusory, but we all want to go there. As long as we dream of heaven, we will be able to overcome the hardships of life's journeys and lead optimistic and positive lives. Dreams are illusory, but when we are in dream worlds, the illusions look very real. We think of our day-to-day lives as being real because everything in them seems very real and true. But what is the difference between the truth of reality and the truth of dreams? One day, when we finally leave this real world and wake up in another illusory world, we will find out that life is only a dream, an illusion. What are illusions? What is reality? The bygone is like mist and smoke, like a dream or a fantasy. The future truth is illusory and looming. To walk slowly or quickly, there are many roads to take in life. To take with good means or bad, in the end it is all empty. The wilderness where foxes sleep and hares walk was once a dance hall. The bleak and desolate field where flowers and grass grow was once a battlefield. The bygone realness now becomes illusory, and the illusion of the future will evolve into reality. Reality comes from illusions and will return to illusions. Illusions originate from truth and will become reality. Everything is but a game. Only the soul is true. Reality is a game. Those who obsess with reality and are trapped in it are confused. Those who take delight and fun in it are awakened. It makes no sense to try to hold on to the reality of a dream. The real life is to play the games. The contents of them are determined by illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses are determined by souls. Souls are real, but nature is life and a characteristic of structure. Structure determines nature. Therefore, the non-material structure of life is ultimately, absolutely real. However, reality and illusion are dialectical. Real structures give rise to illusory consciousnesses. Illusory consciousnesses in turn produce real structures. Therefore, our top priority should be to concentrate our efforts on the illusory consciousness of life. The type of illusory consciousness decides the future reality of life. Illusions become realities and realities become unreal. If you have a beast's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in a beast's reality. If you have a celestial being's illusory consciousness, then you will eventually live in the celestial world. Once you understand the dialectical relationship between reality and illusions, you should not be lost in reality, consume your time and energy on things there, cling to and worry about them, seize, possess, compete for, or persist after them. You should take reality as a stage in a game and play it to its fullest. As long as you get happiness, joy, freedom, and blessing, then your life is successful, wise, and full. To own nothing is to have everything. Not to act is to act. Hold fast to illusions and you can have reality. Having reality is, after all, an illusion. Life is a journey. The more things that you possess in reality, the more misery you will have and the more pathetic you will become, because your life will all be a tragedy. The more illusory things that you possess, the happier and more affluent you will be, because your life will ultimately become a comedy.
宇宙八大辩证法
The 8 Dialectics of the Universe. Xiefeng. April 13th, 2010. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer, Taiji thinking teaches us that everything in the universe comes from the unity of opposites and the symmetry of yin and yang. Opposing sides exist in the same unity. One is the condition for the other and disappears when the other does. Within a certain range, one flourishes as the other declines. Extremes meet and things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. For example, know the male, but conform to the female. Sages put themselves last but find themselves in front. They regard their bodies as accidental and are thereby preserved. Life is the root of death and death is the root of life. Yin and yang are the roots of each other. To yield is to be preserved whole. To be bent is to become straight. To be hollow is to be filled. To be tattered is to be renewed. The growth and decline, the generating, sustaining, destroying, and changing of any two opposites are dialectical. There are 8 dialectics in the universe. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. The small can grow big, details matter. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Positive and negative are symmetrical but proportion restrains. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. The 3 elements of the universe are consciousness, structure, and energy. They are all non-material. The existence of any single element is emptiness. See it, and you will not see its form. Hear it, and you will not hear its trace. Meet it, and you will not know its face. Follow it, and you will not find its back. Once the 3 join together, though, there is lustrous and dazzling form, changing countlessly and into a myriad of images. Therefore, form comes from emptiness and emptiness is form. When emptiness comes, there is form because form is emptiness. If a mind abides in form, it is in emptiness. If a mind abides in emptiness, it is in form. You pursue form, but form is never there. You pursue emptiness and you get form. Pursuing form results in emptiness. Pursuing emptiness results in form. When things exhaust, they revive. When they end, they begin anew. Extremes meet. Things develop in opposite directions when they become extreme. When you reach your peak, you go downhill. Extreme happiness leads to sorrow and extreme sorrow leads to happiness. Extreme yin is yang and extreme yang is yin. The softest becomes the hardest and the hardest becomes the softest. There is a time to rise and a time to fall. When a thing reaches its prime, it will be old and will revive. The end of the infinitely big is the infinitesimally small, and the end of infinitesimally small is the infinitely big. When something saturates, a qualitative change happens in it. Things change at critical points and new substances are produced. Extreme beauty leads to ugliness and extreme ugliness leads to beauty. Extreme goodness forms evil and extreme evil forms goodness. That is, great virtue is no virtue and great benevolence is heartless. Haste makes waste. One who understands Tao appears dull of comprehension, and one who advances in Tao appears to slip backwards. To pursue happiness, you must avoid extremes. To revive, go for the extreme. The small can grow big, details matter. Matter is composed of molecules, composed of atoms. A tree with a full span's girth begins from a tiny sprout. A 9-storied terrace begins with a clod of earth. From small beginnings, one can see how things will develop and grow. Difficulties are overcome by easy things. Great things are accomplished by the details. Details matter. Deal with the big while it is yet small. Deal with the difficult while it is yet easy. Start from the beginning and start from the small, but do not lose track of the big picture. Molehills make mountains. Do not neglect small things or you will never accomplish big things. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Any future success depends on the present. Small details and tiny things lead to grand achievements. Life and death are the roots of each other. Yin flourishes when yang declines. Life is the root of death and death is the root of life. No life, no death. No death, no life. Life and death alternate and each follows the other. Yang flourishes when yin declines and yin flourishes when yang declines. Every moment of every day has birth and death. One dies here but is born there. Hard is born as soft dies. Good is born as evil dies. One departs from the mortal world and is born into the celestial world. A human heart dies and the heart of a celestial being is born. If you keep the old, you will get nothing new. If you are selfish, you will never reach the Elysium world. Out of life, death enters. Those who are not afraid of death will live. The created universe carries yin at its back and yang in front, and vice versa. Seek life and you will die. Seek death and you will live. To have nothing is to have everything. To have everything is to have nothing. Out of nothing, there is something. The less you possess, the more you have. The more you possess, the less you have. When you possess nothing, you can have everything. When you have everything, you can possess nothing. The more you have, the more emptiness you feel, the more illusory it is, and the more real it is. Walk into the spiritual Pure Land, and you will see a wonderful world. Pursue wealth, power, and lust, and you will have endless troubles. Being and non-being interconnect in growth. If you want to have something in heaven, give it up in the mortal world. To have nothing is to have everything. By the existence of things we profit, and by the non-existence of things we are served. Work on non-existence for existence. Where the mind abides nowhere, nature prevails. Where the mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. Nature is the quality of origin, which is Buddha. The reason that people cannot attain Buddhahood is that their minds abide somewhere. If their minds abided nowhere, they would attain Buddhahood. When one's mind abides nowhere, nature shows. When their mind abides somewhere, nature recedes. This is dialectical. One advances as the other retreats. Different forms give birth to different souls. When minds abide somewhere, trouble comes. Therefore, if your mind abides somewhere, it will be in falsehood. It should not abide in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma. It should abide nowhere. When the mind abides nowhere, it can abide everywhere. And when the soul can transcend over all forms and show the nature, one can reach the Elysium world. He who focuses too much on the specific cannot see the general. A mind that abides somewhere cannot go to the Elysium world. One who acquire enlightenment can perceive nature. One who lack mind can show nature. Stillness and motion coexist. Light and dark are interdependent. Stillness is the source of motion. It cannot be dynamic if it is not static. Motion is the root of stillness. It cannot be static if it is not dynamic. Stillness and motion coexist and come from each other. Strong motion comes from great stillness. Great stillness comes from strong motion. All things derive from stillness but are accomplished in motion. Without stillness, there is no motion. Without motion, there are no accomplishments. Light comes out of darkness and darkness comes from light. Heaven and hell, one light and the other dark. Extreme darkness is light and extreme light is darkness. Fortune and adversity go together. Out of waste grows grass. Bliss is unfelt until after it leaves. Good fortune lies within bad. Bad fortune lurks within good. Non-interference with natural rules and letting all things happen naturally. Those who act at the wrong times spoil things. One should never fear the dark. Out of extreme darkness comes light. Knowing the dialectic of the universe, one can enjoy the light cautiously, for from extreme light comes darkness. Positive and negative are symmetrical, but proportion restrains. Those who differ from the crowd will be slandered. An outstanding tree in the forest will be destroyed by wind. Those who enjoy great fame will be envied, but those who are most favored will be slandered. 36-dimensional space is arranged symmetrically. The forces of action and reaction are equal but in opposition. All things reinforce and neutralize each other mutually. There is always one thing to overcome the other. There is heaven and there is hell. All things develop in proportion. Chaos and the early devastation were the results of imbalance. Boundless avarice leads to disaster. Conform to nature and give up inordinate ambitions. Understand that everything has two sides and that perfection is unattainable. Rivers run into the sea, so you can never drink them all. Tao is the theory of yin and yang. Maintaining a balance between the two is rational. Knowing the dialectic principle is wise, and complying with the laws of nature can be regarded as virtue.
如何解脱生死
How to liberate yourself from life and death. Xiafeng. June 17, 2011. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The subtlety of liberating oneself from life and death in the treasury of the true Dharma I is that Buddha Sakyamuni had held a flower in his hand as he smiled in the Lingshan mountain assembly. Only his first disciple, Mahakassapa, understood why and gave a faint smile. Buddha said, "I possess the true Dharma I, the marvelous mind of nirvana, the true form of the formless, and the subtle Dharma gate that does not rest on words or letters, but is a special understanding outside of the scriptures." Mahakassapa later explained his understanding directly to Ananda, who gave it to Shanavasa, and all the way to Bodhidharma, the 28th patriarch of Buddhism. When the 27th patriarch Prajnatara gave it along with a robe and begging bowl to Bodhidharma, he said, 60 years after I attain nirvana, I want you to take these 3 things from India to China and carry Buddhism forward to benefit all living people. Bodhidharma took Zen Buddhism to China and was regarded as the first Chinese Zen Buddhist patriarch. He eventually passed them to Haik, the 2nd patriarch, who passed them to Sankan, the 3rd patriarch, then to Daoxin, the 4th patriarch, and to Hongren, the 5th patriarch. When Master Hongren told about them, he was met with some trouble because he found that the real successor should be the unknown handyman Huaining in the monastery instead of the highly reputed and admirable Professor Master Shinshio. It would be very unconvincing to all if everything passed directly to Huaining. In a desperate way, he said, "The lives and deaths of mortals are matters of huge importance, but you only pursue the land of promise without seeking to be away from the bitter sea of life and death. If you lose your nature, then how can blessings bring you salvation? Both of you write me a stanza. He who understands what the essence of mind is will be given the robe, the insignia of the patriarchate, and the Dharma, the ultimate teaching of the Zen school, and I shall make him the 6th patriarch." With a small trick, he finally gave his treasures to Master Huaining. Master Huaining was the 6th and final patriarch of Zen. The treasury of the true Dharma I and the robe and begging bowl were lost after him. I used to joke that I am the 7th patriarch of Zen, and that I have written on Zen by the 7th patriarch of Zen 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which are the most heavily weighted 5 articles of all my writings. Now the question, as instructed in Buddha's treasury of the true Dharma I, this subtle Dharma gate, does not rest on words or letters, but is a special message outside of the scriptures, becomes how to transfer from mind to mind. If I were to tell it with words, then I would be rebelling against the teachings of Buddha. So, if not expressing with words, how can we know how to liberate ourselves from the samsara of life and death? To make the best of both worlds, I can only slide over the water. Whether you can be liberated from life and death all depends on your level of practicing Tao, your destiny, and your root of wisdom. There is no life or death in life. The life and death seen by the world is an illusion. It is the evolved deduction of the carrier of life. Life has nothing to do with time, so life has no limitations of time and is beyond all ages. The nature of life is non-material structure. The form rendered by life is decided by its non-material structure. Its non-material structure decides the form rendered by it. Consciousness originates from structure, and in turn controls structure. Human consciousnesses make people, animal consciousnesses make animals, and if you develop your consciousness to that of a celestial being or a Buddha, then you will become a celestial being or a Buddha. Life is a cycle of reincarnations. The death we commonly see is not the death of life itself, but the phenomenon of life transformation. Life travels from one dimension into another, from one world into another, through the gate of life and death. When a life crosses that gate, from this field, we see it as death, but from the other field, it is life. All dharmas are marked with emptiness. They neither begin nor end, are neither immaculate nor defiled, and neither complete nor deficient. Therefore, in emptiness there are neither forms, feelings, perceptions, impulses, nor consciousness. Neither eyes, ears, noses, tongues, bodies, or minds. Neither sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touchables, or any sensations, and so on until we have form. There are no mind consciousness elements, no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on until we have form. There is no decay and death, no extinction of decay and death. No suffering, no origination, no stopping, no path. No cognition, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, it is because of their non-attainmentness that bodhisattvas, through having relied on the perfection of wisdom, dwell without thought coverings. In the absence of thought coverings, they have not been made to tremble, have overcome what can upset, and in the end, have attained nirvana, to be free from life and death. When you are liberated from life and death, you can attain nirvana. If you understand the truth above, then you can be liberated from the samsara of life and death. The problem is that as mortals, we have fleshy eyes and mortal stalks. As we cannot see higher dimensional space and worlds, we are not fully convinced of the above truths. Then what? It is easy. Follow the guide and verify step by step. What are those things that hinder us from liberating from the samsara of life and death? The answers are greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion. Greed is the want to always possess more out of self-interest. Anger is to detest, blame, and envy. Ignorance is the belief that you are always right and never wrong. Arrogance is self-importance, pretentiousness, disdain, defiance, and the lack of a gracious, cherishing heart. Suspicion is being full of doubts and not facing the facts. It is hypocritical, false, and self-deceiving. Overcoming greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, and suspicion will enable you to understand this truth and will liberate you from the samsara of life and death. The reason is very simple and easy to do, but putting it into real practice is difficult. After being liberated from life and death, one also needs to understand where to go after death. If you are heading to the lower world, then you will be miserable.
宇宙全息一
Cosmic Holography I. Xiefeng. October 31st, 2005. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. The universe runs in holographic order and consists of the distributed psychic energy of the greatest creator, Tao, just as we humans are composed of the flesh and spirit of the same. From the infinitely cosmic to the infinitesimally tiny, each are closely related and connected together. I am in you and you are in me. On the macro scale, energy fills the space and time of the entire universe, while Tao controls the operation, development, and changes of all things in within it. Therefore, it is an organic whole, and the seemingly unconnected multiple celestial bodies, phenomena, and people are its constituent parts, its cells, so the universe is holographic. On the micro scale, atoms, molecules, and people are consortiums of structure and energy which have mutual interaction with everything else and together belong to the unity of Tao and energy. So the universe is holographic. Try to pierce your toe with a needle. You will feel muscles tightening throughout your body and your brain will jump with an immediate emergency response. If a lover or your parents are next to you, they will also react promptly. Why? Because you are holographic. L. Turn your computer on and access the web. Global data will stream onto your screen as you search. Why? Because the internet is holographic. L. Arthritis sufferers can sense rain while the weather is still dry, and many animals can detect seismic disturbances before the earth shakes. Why? Because the earth is holographic. L. The waning and waxing of the moon raises and lowers the tides, and sunspots directly affect climatic changes and the rhythms of life on the earth. Why? Because the solar system is holographic. Cosmic holography also means that the whole contains all of its parts and all of its parts contain the whole. Our bodies are constituted of 130 trillion cells, and each of them contain all the information of the human body. That is, when they all assemble together, they constitute a complete human individual. Each cell is just an insignificant component, but when we divide them individually, each one can form a human body. Viewing them with Buddha's eyes, each of them is a complete human body with 5 senses, 7 holes, bones, hair, internal organs, 4 limbs, flesh, skin, and so forth. If we split a single cell, we will find that this inconceivable cell is made up of an equal number of even more inconceivable ones. Our complete image can be seen in a mirror, but if we break that mirror in half, then each half will reflect our complete image. That is, we will have 2 images. Break it in half again, and we will have 4 identical images, and so on. If we break this mirror into millions, billions, or even trillions of pieces, we will still see our complete image in each and every one of them. The number of potential images is countless. Even if a seed has not been planted in soil to take root, sprout, blossom, and bear fruit, its whole entity, the shape of its leaves, growth patterns, and so on can be seen with Dharma eyes. We cannot see the shape of a bud if we do not know what type it is and without referring to its blade with naked eyes, and we will not know how big it will grow, but we can see its size and shape by looking at it holographically. If you cut a growing leaf in half, then its whole image will be visible from the remaining half, and you can see its entirety from either half. All things are like this because the universe is holographic. Now that we know that the universe is holographic, our worldview and outlook on life will take a subversive leap. If we want to understand the Tao of Lao Tzu, the Dharma of Sakyamuni, and the thinking and scientific theory of Jesus, we will understand it thoroughly and at a glance, and our spiritual perception will open. Those with deeper roots can develop a series of special magical powers and arts, and will feel at ease in dealing with the affairs of their daily lives. For example, one big distress in life is the love between men and women. Between lovers and married couples, one always expects the other to be faithful and pure, but if they learn that the other is having a secret relationship with a third party, then they become distressed and sad, and no matter how much effort the other exerts to vindicate themselves, "I love you just as much, I really do," it will be useless, because their credibility will have been lost. "You cannot be true to me if you also love that person, and your love is false and the love that you offer me is incomplete," would be the responses. Their distress is caused by not understanding the holographic nature of the universe. From the holographic universe perspective, if someone loves several people, even hundreds, thousands, millions, or billions of people, their love for each of them can be complete, true, and absolutely complete. It is like seeing oneself in a mirror. There is one self in one mirror, 2 selves in 2 mirrors, and a billion selves in a billion mirrors, but each is complete. Buddha can incarnate and rescue trillions because Buddha knows that the universe is holographic and Buddha is holographic. Conversely, if I am loved by 10,000 women, even if they also love other men, but I believe that their love for me is wholehearted and complete, then I will gladly accept their love. Likewise, if I love 10,000 women, then my love for each of them can still be true and complete. Why should you have to cling on to just one? Life is short. Does it matter if you love more than one? Other truths can be inferred accordingly. In short, oneness of man and nature, universal holography, subtle wisdom, and depth of understanding reincarnate into trillions. 宇宙全息2 Cosmic Holography II Xiefeng November 3, 2005 Translated by Treasure and edited by Kayer. Cosmic holography means that the universe really is alive, that everything in the universe shares the same breath and destiny, and that any local change, directly or indirectly, affects its entirety. A storm on Mars can cause colds on Earth. The death of a whale in the Pacific Ocean can cause grief in Nile River fish, and a butterfly flapping its wings in Alaska can cause a storm in the Cape of Good Hope. This is an extreme and exaggerated expression, but it conforms to theory of cosmic holography. An article by Xiefeng will inspire the awakening of human consciousness as a whole. This is an extremely exaggerated expression, but it conforms to theory of cosmic holography. The purpose of understanding things is not only to appreciate them, but also to use them to serve us and to maximize our freedom. Taking the way of the greatest creator is not for suffering or enduring hardship, but to maximize our enjoyment of life and to obtain more joy, pleasure, and happiness. To understand cosmic holography is not only to enrich our own knowledge, because gaining knowledge is not our purpose, but to apply it to serve ourselves and others. How can we make the knowledge of cosmic holography help us to navigate through life? Since the universe is holographic, the greatest creator, gods, and Buddha are all in us because we are the cells of each of them. A cell contains all the information about the universe as a whole, and in the same way, devils also live within us. When our hearts are filled with love for all lives in the universe, then we have the character of the greatest creator, and when we show mercy to all lives, then we have the character of God and Buddha. But when our hearts are filled with hatred, weighing and balancing everything for our own self-interests, then we take on the character of devils. Since the universe is holographic and each cell contains the information of the whole, then by understanding and appreciating ourselves, we can know all the mysteries of the universe, sense future changes and trends of the universe, and acquire information about the universe's past, all from our own present. Since the universe is holographic, it shows that our memories exist not only in our brains, but also in each cell of our whole bodies, and even in the space and time of the entire universe. Our brains are just sensors, and through it we can extract records from hundreds, thousands, even millions of years. We can not only trace our own history over the past millennia, but maybe even recall the historical process of the evolution of the universe. Whether Tue Bei Tu, Les Propheties, Divination Before Saddle Horses, Mayan or Martian prophecy, Tibetan remote sensing prophecy, revelations, or any other prophetic manuscript, they are all evidence of cosmic holography. They prove that people are able to accurately predict the future as well as to recall images after several years, decades, and even centuries. Since the universe is holographic, we humans are able to see the entirety of the universe, to see the Milky Way system and the planets that exist outside of it, and to picture the images of the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world. 36-dimensional space is no longer mysterious and incomprehensible. When a small thorn is placed on one's toe, their brain will feel it instantly and react accordingly. Similarly, everyone's words and deeds are sensed instantly by the greatest creator and also reacted to immediately, which means that you reap what you sow, good will be rewarded with good and evil will be punished with evil, and that causation is the iron law of the universe. So we can believe firmly that we will receive the proper return for our self-refinery and self-cultivation. The dream world is the symbol of holography, which proves that we live in other spaces at the same time and that we are just a fragment of the holography of this moment. Based on how we feel and express ourselves in reality, we can know where our other self or selves live. If one has Buddha nature, then their negative self is in the Elysium world. If one is cultivating themselves to become a celestial being, then their negative self is in the Celestial Islands continent or the 10,000-year world. If one yearns for a free, joyous, and blessed life without family relationships, then their negative self is in the 1,000-year world. If one has deep love for the human world, then their negative self is elsewhere within the mortal world. If one enjoys fighting, striving, robbing and seizing or the law of jungles, then their negative self is in the animal world. If one enjoys dark and selfish activities, then their negative self is in hell. In A Brief History of Time, the great scientist Stephen Hawking realized that there is an anti-universe with anti-humans, and quantum mechanics vaguely detects antiparticles. For particles and antiparticles, however far apart they are, they seem to connect, and they can respond to each other and interact instantly. Therefore, we can infer that every Chanyuan celestial's negative ego or anti-ego is in heaven. What we need to do now is improve our consciousness, bring it into closer alignment with heaven, and return to our home. That is to say, to leave our mortal consciousness and let our subconsciousness return to its source. Since the universe is holographic, we are not afraid of death. As long as consciousness exists, we can incarnate trillions of times and project ourselves into boundless worlds. I am the universe is me, so we can attain Buddhahood. With regard to this cosmic holography theory, I put forward the above 8 aspects as a starting point. I cast a brick to attract jade. However, we can draw 80 or even 800 more examples. From a sample, you may judge the whole, make efforts to draw an analogy based on a theory, let the fire of inspiration twinkle everywhere and always, and grasp the secrets of life as early as possible. For years upon years, after days and nights with sunrises and sunsets, people have been living so, back and forth. Is this the time to change to a new lifestyle? If not, there will be no end to our troubles and suffering.
时间的秘密
The Secret of Time. Xiafeng. January 5, 2006. Translated by Transin and edited by Kayer. Eternity is long, very long,